What's the inspiration for tonight? Family, legacy, and apparently total rule-breaking chaos. Can we get out right here, baby? Because the internet is currently in a state of absolute meltdown. Everybody saw Blue Ivy step onto that Met Gala carpet at just 14 years old, looking like straight-up untouchable royalty. The photos went everywhere fast, and for a second it was all heart emojis and proud mom posts. But let's be real. The honeymoon phase ended the second people remembered the fine print. Does the law even apply when your last name is Carter? Or are we just living in Beyonce's world now? People online are side-eyeing the situation hard, and the backlash is getting loud fast. We're talking about a strict 18 and over event expectation that suddenly vanished into thin air. Why? How? And who had to get paid off behind the scenes to make this spotlight moment happen? Critics are claiming Beyonce and Matthew Knowles pushed buttons that weren't meant to be pushed, and honestly, the conversation is turning toxic. Is this a beautiful family milestone? Or the most calculated, aggressive celebrity rollout we've ever seen? Get ready because we are diving deep into why Queen Bey is officially under fire. Alright, let's get into the actual mess because what happened behind those velvet curtains is allegedly way darker than a couple of flashing cameras and a designer gown. You have to understand that the Met Gala isn't just a party. It's a high-stakes battlefield of ego, power, and very specific, very rigid rules. Since 2018, the official line has been that no one under 18 gets a ticket. Period. The organizers previously claimed the environment was too mature, the art was too fragile, and the guest list was too elite for teenagers. But then enter the Carters. When Blue Ivy walked up those steps at 14, it didn't just break the internet. It shattered the credibility of every rule the Met ever pretended to have. People are now asking the million-dollar question. How much did it cost to buy a 14-year-old a seat at the table? According to insiders who were reportedly working the floor that night, the atmosphere shifted the second the motorcade pulled up. This wasn't a normal entrance. It was described as a military operation. We're hearing reports that entire hallways were cleared, security protocols were bypassed, and certain standard checks were simply ignored for the Queen and her heir. Critics are calling this the ultimate display of celebrity corruption. If any other star tried to bring a middle schooler to the fashion world's most exclusive adult night, they would have been laughed off the sidewalk. But when you're Beyonce, the rules don't just bend, they snap in half. The backlash started almost immediately when fashion purists noticed that Blue Ivy wasn't just there as a guest. She was being positioned as the main event. Think about the history here. Beyonce has been building this wall of privacy for years, rarely giving us anything more than a curated Instagram post. But suddenly at the Met Gala she's doing mini interviews, she's smiling for every lens, and she's constantly pulling Blue into the frame. Why the sudden change in energy? Investigative fans are pointing back to the Mufasa premiere and several other high-profile sightings where the branding felt heavy. They believe this Met Gala appearance was the final boss of a carefully orchestrated public relations campaign. The rumors are flying that this wasn't about a mother-daughter night out at all. It was about the launch of Blue Ivy, the brand. Some anonymous sources are even claiming that a massive, multi-million-dollar luxury deal is already signed and waiting in the wings, and this appearance was the required visual proof that Blue can command a room of adults. But while the business side looks perfect, the public reaction is turning into a nightmare for the Carter PR team. People are digging up old interviews where celebrities were reportedly denied entry for being too young, and they are using those examples to fuel the fire of unfair treatment. They're calling out the hypocrisy of a system that claims to be about art and fundraising, but clearly operates on a pay-to-play basis where the highest level of fame buys you an exemption from the law of the land. And then we have to talk about the silence from the organizers. Usually, the Met is very vocal about their guest list, but this time, crickets. That silence is being interpreted as a total surrender to the power of the Carter empire. Critics online are calling it a hostile takeover of high fashion. They're saying that Beyonce didn't just attend the Met Gala. She owned it, she managed it, and she dictated exactly how it was going to look. The investigation into these leaked details suggests that Beyonce's role as co-chair gave her unprecedented access to the guest list management software. If those rumors are true, it means she literally had the power to override the age restrictions herself. Can you imagine the level of audacity required to walk into an 18-plus event with a 14-year-old simply because you're the one holding the clipboard? It's the kind of power move that makes people both admire and absolutely detest the way modern celebrity works. The internet is flooded with side-by-side comparisons of Blue Ivy and other star kids who were told to wait their turn. The narrative is shifting from, "Isn't she cute?" to "Why does she get a pass?" The drama doesn't stop at the guest list, though. Let's talk about the actual look and the message it sent. Critics are tearing apart the styling, claiming that Blue Ivy was made to look like a 30-year-old CEO, rather than a teenager. The off-the-shoulder Balenciaga, the dark shades, the icy stare. It was a look designed to intimidate. Some viewers are pointing out that this corporate styling is a direct reflection of how she's being viewed by her management as a product. The sarcasm online is hitting an all-time high, with people tweeting that they can't wait for Blue Ivy to retire by age 16, since she's already reached the pinnacle of adult fame. But behind the jokes, there is a very real sense of unease. People are connecting this to the broader issue of adultification in Hollywood, where kids are stripped of their childhood to serve a brand's bottom line. Beyonce is being accused of using her daughter as the ultimate accessory to keep her own name relevant in a changing digital landscape. Now let's bring in the most shocking part of this investigative breakdown: the alleged internal family fallout. We've all seen the reports claiming Matthew Knowles is absolutely fuming behind the scenes. This is a man who knows how the sausage is made. He's the one who ran the boot camp for Destiny's Child. He's the one who made his own daughters work until they collapsed to achieve global dominance. So, if even Matthew Knowles is saying things are moving too fast, you know we have reached a level of intensity that is off the charts. Rumors are circulating that Matthew had a tense phone call with the family before the event, warning them that overexposing Blue this early would lead to a public burnout. He allegedly argued that by skipping the struggle and jumping straight to the Met Gala, they are robbing her of the very work ethic that made Beyonce a star in the first place. This leaked internal friction is adding a whole new layer of scandal to the story. It's not just the public versus Beyonce, it's the creator of the empire versus his own creation. People are obsessed with the irony of a man who was once criticized for being too hard on his kids now being the one to say, "Hey, maybe let's slow down." The investigation into social media sentiment shows that the Blue Ivy clause has become a symbol for everything people hate about the elite. Every time a photo of Blue in her shades hits the timeline, the comments aren't just about fashion anymore. They're about the death of meritocracy. Critics are pointing out that while other talented artists spend years trying to get an invite to that carpet, a 14-year-old got it just for being born. The sarcasm is biting, the memes are ruthless, and the investigative findings from online sleuths are painting a picture of a family that believes they are truly untouchable. But as we know in the world of viral scandals, the higher you climb and the faster you push, the harder the fall becomes when the public finally decides they've had enough. People are now looking for any sign of a crack in the armor, and they found it in those small nervous moments on the carpet that the cameras tried to hide. Those moments where the boss persona slipped, and a kid looked like she just wanted to go home. That's where the real story starts to unravel, because no matter how many millions you spend on a dress or how many rules you break to get through the door, you can't buy a genuine sense of belonging in a room that was never meant for you to begin with. The conversation is just getting started, and the investigation is moving into the legal and logistical nightmare that this Met Gala debut has created for everyone involved. Because when you play with the rules of the elite, someone always ends up getting burned. The legal and logistical nightmare is where the real paper trail begins, because you don't just bypass a decade of established event protocol without leaving a few digital fingerprints behind. Sources close to the Metropolitan Museum of Art's administrative wing are allegedly whispering about a series of high-level emails that went out weeks before the first rose was even pinned to the gala's floral walls. According to these leaked whispers, the internal debate was fierce. There were reportedly staff members who were terrified of the optics, arguing that letting a 14-year-old in would open the floodgates for every other Nepo baby in Hollywood to demand a seat. But the pressure from the top was supposedly unrelenting. When your co-chair is a global icon who basically prints money for the industry, no isn't a word that stays on the table for very long. Investigative sleuths online are now digging into the financial disclosures of the event, trying to see if there was a special donation or a strategic partnership that conveniently coincided with the announcement of the guest list. The sarcasm on Twitter is reaching peak levels, with users suggesting that the Met should just rename itself the Carter Family Foundation and be done with it. But the corruption narrative is gaining serious traction because it highlights a massive double standard that the fashion world usually tries to hide under layers of tulle and silk. While the administrative side was scrambling to justify the Blue Ivy clause, the actual preparation for her arrival was reportedly more intense than a presidential visit. We are talking about a 14-year-old who allegedly had a team of 12 stylists, 3 bodyguards, and a private floor at one of New York's most expensive hotels just to get ready for a walk up some stairs. The extravagance is being described as obscene by critics who point out that most teenagers are worrying about algebra, while Blue was worrying about which Balenciaga archive piece would make the internet explode. The leaked reports about the spending for this one night are astronomical. Some sources claim the total cost for the outfit, the jewelry, which was allegedly on loan but required its own dedicated security detail, and the logistics top $2 million. In an economy where people are struggling to pay rent, seeing a middle schooler draped in the equivalent of a small country's GDP is not sitting well with the masses. The public reaction has shifted from admiration to a deep, cynical resentment. People are starting to see the Carters not as a success story, but as an untouchable oligarchy that plays by a completely different set of physics. But the most fascinating part of this investigation isn't the money. It's the alleged behind-the-scenes tension between Beyonce and the event's traditionalist gatekeepers. Rumor has it that Anna Wintour herself had reservations about the age gap, but Beyonce allegedly played her ultimate card, the legacy narrative. The argument was that Blue Ivy isn't just a child, she's a cultural institution in training. This brings us back to the most controversial element of the night, the behavior. During the event, while the cameras were flashing, people noticed a very specific vibe. It wasn't the vibe of a kid having fun. It was the vibe of a professional athlete during a championship game. The sarcasm online pointed out that Blue looked more stressed than a tax accountant in April. Investigative fans zoomed in on every frame of the red carpet footage, noticing how Beyoncé's publicist was reportedly hovering just out of shot, giving hand signals and directing every move. It felt less like a mother-daughter moment and more like a high-stakes corporate product launch. Critics are asking, at what point does mentoring become exploitation? If you're being treated like a billion-dollar asset at 14, do you even have a personality? Or are you just a collection of brand-approved reactions? Then there's the Matthew Knowles factor, which is adding gasoline to this already massive fire. The latest rumors suggest that Matthew isn't just raising eyebrows. He's allegedly preparing to speak out. Insiders claim he's been telling friends that the Beyoncé-Jay-Z management style is focused too much on the now, and not enough on the long-term mental health of the child. This is the ultimate irony. The man who was once the villain of the Destiny's Child story is now being cast as the voice of reason. People are digging up old clips of Matthew talking about the sacrifice required for fame, and they're comparing it to the instant gratification celebrity culture we see today. The theory is that Matthew believes Blue should have been hidden until she was 18 to create a sense of mystery and demand. By overexposing her now at the Met Gala, he reportedly thinks they are burning the fuel too fast. This internal family rift is being tracked by every gossip blog on the planet. Is there a genuine concern for Blue's well-being? Or is this just a power struggle over who gets to claim credit for the next generation of the dynasty? The sarcasm is flying, with people wondering if the next Knowles family reunion will require a legal mediator and a non-disclosure agreement. As the investigation continues, the focus has shifted to the other celebrities who were present that night. Allegedly, there was a lot of muttering in the bathroom stalls and at the dinner tables. Sources claim that several A-list stars felt slighted that their own families were told they couldn't attend, only to see Blue Ivy center stage. One report suggests a major fashion mogul was overheard saying, "I guess the age limit is 18 for everyone except the royal family." This sense of elitism is creating a divide within the industry itself. The Met Gala is supposed to be a place where the greatest are celebrated, but if the criteria for being the greatest is just being related to Beyonce, then the prestige of the event is in the trash. Public reactions on TikTok are filled with people canceling the Met Gala for its lack of consistency. They're pointing out that if you can buy your way out of the rules are just suggestions for the poor. The investigative findings into the VIP ticketing system suggest that the price for a +1 for a child is significantly higher than a standard ticket, leading to accusations that the Met is basically running a high-end rule-breaking service for the ultra-wealthy. What really caught the public's attention, however, was the sunglasses incident. It sounds small, but in the world of image control, it's everything. Blue kept those shades on like they were glued to her face. Critics are saying it was a sign of arrogance, while others say it was a sign of fear. But investigative fans found a different angle. They noticed that every time someone tried to get Blue to take the glasses off, she looked toward her mother for a cue. The sarcasm online was brutal. Blink twice if the Balenciaga is too tight, Blue. But beneath the jokes is a serious conversation about the loss of agency. When you are 14, you should be making mistakes, wearing cringy clothes, and figuring out who you are. Instead, Blue Ivy is being curated into a silent, icy statue of perfection. People are questioning if the ready comment from Beyonce was actually a threat to the rest of the industry. A way of saying, we have the next 30 years of pop culture locked down, so get used to it. The fallout from this is starting to affect the Carter brand's relatability score. For years, they've tried to balance being aspirational with being human. But the Met Gala appearance has tipped the scales entirely toward alienatingly elite. The legal ramifications are also starting to surface. Reports are emerging that several child advocacy groups are looking into the situation, not because of physical harm, but because of the labor laws surrounding public appearances. If Blue Ivy is being used to promote brands like Balenciaga and her mother's various ventures, is she an employee? And if she's an employee, why was she at an adult-only event that serves alcohol and stays open until the early hours of the morning? The investigation is moving into the gray area of celebrity child labor. While it sounds extreme, the public is hungry for accountability. They want to know why a 14-year-old was allowed to work a red carpet until midnight. The sarcasm is biting. I hope she gets overtime pay in the form of more diamonds. But the tension is real. People are tired of the rules for thee but not for me attitude, and they are using Blue Ivy as the lightning rod for all their frustrations with the billionaire class. As we move into the final breakdown of the consequences, it's becoming clear that this wasn't just a red carpet walk. It was the spark that might just burn down the untouchable image Beyonce has spent 20 years building. And the craziest part? The night was only just beginning. The night was only just beginning, but for the Carter empire, the clock was already ticking toward a public relations midnight that no amount of star power could freeze. As the investigation moves into the final fallout, the consequences are starting to look less like a temporary Twitter trend and more like a permanent stain on the flawless legacy. Reports are now surfacing that the Metropolitan Museum of Art is facing internal pressure from its own board of directors to issue a formal apology for the age gap oversight. Allegedly, several high-value donors, the kind of old-money billionaires who don't care about Instagram followers, are threatening to pull their funding if the event continues to turn into a celebrity circus that ignores its own bylaws. The sarcasm online is hitting a fever pitch, with fans joking that the next Met Gala will have a Carter-only daycare center built into the Great Hall. But the reality is far more serious. The prestige of the entire institution is on life support. If the most exclusive event in the world can be bought and bossed around by a single family, then the exclusivity is officially dead. And let's talk about the legal heat that's reportedly starting to simmer in the background. Anonymous sources within the New York Labor Department are hinting that informal inquiries have been made regarding the nature of Blue Ivy's appearance. When a 14-year-old is draped in millions of dollars of branded merchandise and positioned as the centerpiece of a global media rollout, is that a family outing, or is it unregulated labor? The investigation is diving into the murky waters of celebrity children, who are being used as living billboards. Critics are pointing out that if any other industry forced a minor to work a high-pressure red carpet until the early hours of the morning, there would be protests in the streets. But because it's Beyonce, the world is expected to just clap and call it iconic. The sarcasm is biting. Child labor is fine as long as it's Balenciaga, right? But the public is starting to lose its appetite for the hypocrisy. People are demanding to know where the line is between supporting your child's dreams and building a brand on their back. The fallout is also hitting the family's inner circle in ways that are becoming impossible to hide. The latest leaked reports suggest that the tension between Beyonce and Matthew Knowles has reached a breaking point. Allegedly, Matthew has been frozen out of family discussions after his reported comments about Blue being pushed too hard. This is the ultimate power move, cutting off the patriarch to protect the narrative. But you can't silence a man who literally wrote the blueprint for this family's success. Investigative sleuths are pointing to a series of cryptic social media posts from family associates that suggest a civil war is brewing behind the scenes. One side wants to keep the foot on the gas and turn Blue Ivy into the world's first trillion-dollar teenager, while the other side is terrified of the inevitable burnout. The sarcasm on TikTok is ruthless, with users making Succession-style edits of the Carter-Knowles family, debating who will eventually take the crown and who will be left in the dust. But behind the humor is a tragic question. At what point does the family stop being a family and start being a corporation? Now let's get into the financial crisis that nobody is talking about yet. While the Carters are worth billions, their brand value relies heavily on cultural approval. And right now, their approval rating is in free fall. Market analysts who track celebrity influence are reporting a sharp decline in Beyonce's relatability score following the Met Gala. People are tired of the untouchable goddess act when it's being used to bypass rules that everyone else has to follow. The investigation shows that for the first time in years, the Bayhive is actually divided. Even die-hard fans are posting videos saying they feel uncomfortable with the way Blue Ivy was handled. They're noticing the robotic nature of the appearances and the lack of genuine joy. If the fans start to turn, the money follows. Rumors are already circulating that a major fashion house is re-evaluating a potential deal with Blue because the backlash risk is too high. It turns out that breaking the rules for a 14-year-old might be the most expensive mistake Beyonce has ever made. But the most shocking investigative finding involves the Ready comment itself. New reports from industry insiders suggest that Ready didn't just refer to a fashion deal or a new album. Allegedly, there are plans for a Blue Ivy-led media network or a tech-based venture that would see her becoming a competitor to the very platforms that are currently criticizing her. The audacity is staggering. While the world is worried about her being a kid, her parents are allegedly prepping her to be a mogul. This rollout was the ultimate litmus test to see how much the public would tolerate. And based on the non-stop debates, the answer is not this much. The sarcasm is at an all-time high, with people wondering if Blue's next milestone will be buying a private island or running for office by age 16. But the pushback is real. People are starting to realize that the Blue Ivy clause isn't just about one night. It's about the future of celebrity culture where the elites create their own reality and expect us to live in it. The fallout is even reaching the other star kids in Hollywood. Allegedly, there is a lot of resentment brewing among the parents of other young celebrities who have been told to follow the rules and stay out of the spotlight. One anonymous source claimed, "Every other parent in this town is being told to protect their kids' privacy, but the Carters get to break every rule in the book for a headline." It's disgusting. This sense of industry unfairness is creating a toxic environment where the Carters are being viewed as the villains of the Nepo baby era. The investigation into these blind items suggests that Beyonce's influence might actually be waning because people are no longer afraid to speak out against her. The wall of silence that used to protect her brand is crumbling, and what's behind it isn't looking very pretty. As we wrap up this investigative breakdown, we have to look at the final warning that's being sent through the industry. The Met Gala debut was supposed to be a triumph, a coming of age for the next global superstar. Instead, it has become a symbol of everything wrong with the modern celebrity machine: the corruption, the rule-breaking, the exploitation of youth, and the absolute disconnect from reality. The public isn't just side-eyeing anymore. They are actively investigating, questioning, and demanding better. The sarcasm and the memes might be funny, but the message is clear. Even the Queen can be put under fire when she forgets that the rules are there for a reason. So, where does the Carter family go from here? Do they double down and keep pushing Blue into the spotlight? Or do they finally listen to the critics, and allegedly Matthew Knowles, and give her back the childhood she's clearly being stripped of? The investigation is ongoing, and every day a new leaked email or anonymous source adds more fuel to the fire. One thing is for certain: the Met Gala was only the beginning of a conversation that isn't going away anytime soon. The Blue Ivy clause might have gotten her through the door, but it's the public's reaction that might just shut it for good. Now I want to hear from you. Is Beyonce genuinely under fire for a reason? Or is the internet just being too hard on a proud mom? Is the Ready rollout a stroke of genius or a total branding disaster? And what do you think about Matthew Knowles allegedly being the voice of reason in this whole mess? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Because we are watching every single update, and we know you are too. If you want the real truth behind the headlines and the investigative breakdowns that the mainstream media is too afraid to touch, you know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe because the radar is always on, and the next scandal is already landing. Stay tuned because this story is far from over. The fallout from the Blue Ivy clause is far from over, and honestly, the internet isn't letting this one slide anytime soon. Was this Met Gala debut the crowning moment of a future legend? Or was it the most expensive rule-breaking PR stunt in Hollywood history? We've seen the alleged family tension, the questionable legal loopholes, and the total abandonment of event protocol. All for the sake of a 14-year-old's moment. But now the real question lies with you. Do you think Beyonce has officially crossed the line by turning her daughter into a corporate asset before she's even finished high school? Or is the world just intimidated by the sheer power of the Carter legacy? Is Matthew Knowles right to be worried? Or is he just out of touch with how modern dynasties are built? The debate is heating up in the comments, and I want to see your theories. Are we witnessing the birth of a mogul or the burnout of a child star? If you're tired of the mainstream media sugarcoating these royal appearances and you want the raw, investigative truth behind the celebrity curtain, you know exactly what to do. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on those notifications. We are staying locked on this story as it develops, because when the queen is under fire, the smoke never clears. Drop your thoughts below and stay tuned for what's landing on our radar next.